Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back to Joyful Living. Welcome back to another day of videos from me. As many of you know, I am putting out a new video every day until this unpleasantness is behind us, at least through the end of March, probably well into April. And today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my very personal story about unemployment. And then I'm going to be sharing with you the top 10 things that I wish I could go back and tell myself when we first found out that Scott had lost his job. And I'm really glad that you're here. So a quick disclaimer as I start to film this video. The story I'm going to share with you guys today is very personal, and there may be some holes as I'm sharing it, some things that I'm either not ready to share or not willing to share. So I would ask that you be really respectful and understand that you may not get the whole story, but I'm going to give you the gist of it. And just know that that's just kind of protection of my own privacy and of my family's privacy. But back after September 11th, Scott was furloughed from the airline that he worked for. He had just transferred from a regional carrier to a mainline carrier. We were very excited. We had moved to a new city. We had bought a new house. We thought we had everything going for us. The new house was actually kind of in bad shape, but we loved it. It was a fixer-upper. It was built in 1975. We gutted the house. We were right in the middle of construction, and we had so many great plans and blueprints for new bathrooms and new kitchen and new flooring. And then September 11th happened. Now, just to give you how quick everything happened for us, also should have told you, I was at the time a stay-at-home mom with 3 little ones. My oldest son was 5 and our twins were 2. I had quit my job when the twins were born, mostly because we couldn't even afford childcare. It was so expensive for all 3 of them. And I had always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, so it seemed like we were living the perfect life. I feel like I should intersperse there. Little did she know. So, went from being in the middle of redoing our house and being very proud of ourselves because we had bought the less expensive house that we were doing the fixer-upper thing and being fiscally responsible. We had a new car. We had nice things. We bought things. I had nice purses. I had nice shoes. The kids had great clothes. All of the trappings of an upper middle class suburban life. And after having a lot of not that, I kind of felt like we had finally arrived. Then September 11th happened. And on October 30th, we got a slip with Scott's paycheck that said, "This is your last paycheck." Now, a furlough, for those of you who aren't familiar, although I think everybody's becoming more familiar with that by the day, you're not fired, but you are let go until the company that you work for can afford to hire you back. We had no idea how long that furlough would be. We had taken all of our money from the proceeds of our house sale in California and put it into our new house with some left over for the renovation. And we kind of at first approached it like, okay, well, maybe this will be a year. Maybe this will be 8 months. We had no frame of reference. It ended up being a total of 5 years before Scott would go back to work as a pilot. It was okay in the beginning. Again, we had some savings we could draw off of. The house remodeling and everything was stopped dead in its tracks. We used to say that that house was like a clock that had stopped because people that would come over, I mean, it was obvious. It was like the things that got done and didn't get done. It was just an odd house because it was obvious we had halfway done it, but obviously we had to put a kibosh on all of the spending of all of the money in order to be able to survive. Now, I will say that the employees of my husband's company all chipped in and made sure that the health insurance of the furloughed workers was taken care of, which is huge. The union took care of us. There were a lot of, we got loans from parents if we needed it. There were a lot of people that did a lot of things that enabled us to keep our house. However, our situation was dire, and we lived in a very affluent community, and I was really reduced to not being able to afford groceries on a weekly basis. It was as bad as you can imagine. So when I come to you guys today, and I talk to you about how to deal with unemployment, I am not coming to you as a person who is some sort of expert who has not walked this road in my own life. Everything about my expectations for my future changed when Scott lost his job. I would not go back to being a stay-at-home mom again. And my entire vision of what I thought my life would be like and our lives together would be like was altered because of Scott's unemployment. Okay, so first of all, let me just say that I see you. You who is sitting there worried, panicking, not knowing where to turn. Add to that all of the insecurity in our world right now, which, by the way, is very much what it felt like for a different reason, but very much what it felt like after September 11th. Nobody knew what was going to happen next. And so the insecurity was palpable. So what I did, I spent a great deal of time this morning writing down 10 things that I wish I could go back and tell myself when we first got that news that Scott had lost his job. I'm going to share them with you today. I'm also going to turn this into a blog post. I'm not sure when that will go up, but it's jenlefforge.com. If you want, some of you do better if you read it. Plus, there may be things in here because it's so fresh that you're not ready to hear yet that you may want to go back and reference. Number one, don't make any panic decisions, because you're going to want to. Our big panic decision was we joined an MLM. We gave a company a ton of money to sell something that we were going to be terrible at selling at. And when we came to our senses, like 24 hours later, they wouldn't give us our money back. So we took a big chunk of our little savings, and it was a huge mistake. There were a few other financial decisions we made that were lousy, that were made just out of sheer panic. So just take a deep breath. Try really hard not to make any major decisions without a lot of input and really talking it through, because it's really easy to panic and do something stupid. I know, because we did. Number two, this one is huge. Let go of the what ifs and the other timeline. Go in your brain and take that idea of what you thought this time in your life was going to be like, and you have to let it go. Like a balloon, you've got to cut that string and let it go. That timeline no longer exists, and it breaks my heart to tell you that. Things are going to have to change. I hope you're only unemployed for a month. Some of you may be looking at many more months than that. I don't know how long this thing is going to take. But the thing I would do to myself that would just beat me up would be to think about, gosh, if this hadn't happened, then I would be doing this now. And I was kind of the only working mom when all of the other moms in our community stayed home. And it's better now. I mean, this was 20 years ago, but I would go and watch all the moms that weren't trying to juggle work. And I'm not saying being a stay-at-home mom isn't hard. It is. I was ready for that hard. Okay, that hard I knew, that hard I was focused on. I had no idea the type of life that I was going to have to live trying to juggle working full-time and raising little kids. It was a different hard, and it was a hard that I resented. The more I couldn't let go of the what if this isn't what I wanted, the more I resented what was, and that was not healthy for me. It was certainly not healthy for my spouse, and it was not healthy for my children. So yeah, let go of the what ifs. Number three, face the facts. Take a hard look at your financial situation and be brutally honest. And don't shame yourself. Don't shame your partner. You probably made some financial decisions last month that you're now going, what were we thinking? Well, guess what? You couldn't possibly have known that this was going to happen. And by the way, if you did, why didn't you tell everyone else? So let go of that. I was chatting with a pilot wife friend the other day. They are in the middle of putting a swimming pool in their backyard. And she's like, what were we thinking? I'm like, you knew? Like, if you knew, should have told everybody else. So don't beat yourself up over bad financial decisions, but face the facts of how much do you owe? What are your bills? If you haven't sat down and looked at that, what is your savings? What do you have available to you? What money can you get to? And remember that numbers don't have shame or emotions. They're numbers. So treat them like that. Try not to go into all of the emotional blame game that we tend to associate with money, and just be brutally honest. Number four, reach out to your debtors. We waited too long to do this. Our mortgage company, even now, because I just looked into it, has like a 12-month pause on your mortgage if you have certain qualifying conditions, and job loss is one of those conditions. Now, granted, it just gets added to the end of your loan, but if you can arrange so that you don't have to make a mortgage payment for whether it's a few months or even up to a year, do that. You need to preserve that cash because you don't know how long this is going to take. If you have a car loan, if you have a car lease, if you have a credit card at a high interest rate, now is the time to be making those phone calls. If you owe large medical bills, I used to work for a large medical practice, and I'm telling you, the people who would call and work out payment arrangements when they got the first bill were much better received than the people that would wait till we were getting ready to send them to collections. So don't wait to reach out to your debtors. And doesn't debtors sound very like Dickens? I'm going to call my debtors. All of my British viewers just kind of maybe threw up in their mouth a little bit. All right, number 5. Come up with a worst case scenario plan. For us, that was moving in with either Scott's mom or my parents. Wasn't what we wanted. I don't think it would have been what they wanted, but obviously it would have been preferable to being homeless. And because of the insecurities of the time, it helped me immensely to know that if the worst happened, this. And if you don't have that, start developing that plan. Because it's not being negative to plan for the worst case scenario. In fact, for me, if I can get that worst case scenario down on paper and then kind of file it away somewhere, I know it's there if I need it. I don't need to dwell on it, and my brain will stop going to this terrified space. So definitely consider a worst case scenario plan. Number 6, maintain great self-care. Find one thing that you do that makes you feel like the world is still normal so that you don't martyr yourself to this situation. Now, for me, that thing was Clinique makeup. For the longest time when Scott first lost his job, I would not buy my Clinique makeup, and I resented it. Every time I had to go to the drugstore and buy cheap drugstore makeup, which is funny because that's all I buy now, I was very resentful, and there was no need for it. Even though things were incredibly tight, I could have figured out a way to spend that money on my makeup every, 8 weeks or whatever big dramatic thing it was. So I was martyring myself unnecessarily. And if you can find a small thing that makes you feel like maybe the world isn't coming to an end, then continue to do that because it will give you that sense of normalcy. I'm not sure this is as important with men as it is with women, but I know for me, just that tiny little thing, maybe it's your Starbucks. Everyone says, well, stop doing this and stop doing this and stop doing this. You know what? Stop doing most of it. Keep one thing. Figure out what that's going to be and have that be the thing that brings you more joy and positivity than it ever has, because it's the thing that you've held on to in the midst of all of the chaos. Number 7, around your kids, keep things light, but also don't try to hide it from them. Scott and I made a huge mistake in that we tried to shelter the kids from all of it, and kids are smart and they always know. They always know. So explain it in an age-appropriate way, or at least this is what my friends who are children experts have told me. Explain it in an age-appropriate way, but don't try to just shelter them from it altogether, because what kids will do is when they sense that you're worried, and by the way, they do, they fill in with all these imaginings. And my kids were worried about everything from that one of us was sick to that we were getting a divorce to all of these untrue things because we were hiding it from them, but they could tell something was wrong. So just like grown-ups, kids, if they can't get an answer, will fill in the blanks, and usually the blanks that they fill in are far scarier than the reality. So be honest, especially with the fact that, things are going to change and things may not happen exactly the way that we had hoped that they would in some areas, but we still love you. We are still a family and we're going to be okay and we're going to get through this. And that will give them the security that they need. So don't hide it from the kids. Find supportive listeners. I was kind of shocked at the people in my life that could not handle what was happening with us. We were their worst fear. We were the well-off family who all of a sudden had nothing. And there were people that just fled from us. They literally could not handle it. And it hurt, but I had to accept the fact that I was living out their biggest fear, and it's okay. It's okay. However, scan the horizon of your relationships and you will probably find some people that will step up to the plate and be willing to listen to you on your worst days that might surprise you. So be willing to be vulnerable. The people who can't handle it, just kind of put a pause on your relationship with them because they might be a little toxic for a little while. It's not their fault. They just can't handle it. You in your worst space is something they can't handle. And then find the people who will be willing to listen. In my experience, those are usually the people that have been through it, like me. Other families that had been through some kind of unemployment were great listeners for me because they weren't just feeling sorry for me. They could really empathize with me and they knew exactly what I was going through. Number 9, try not to take it out on each other, and that includes children and spouses. You will anyway, so try really hard not to take it out on your partner or your children. Be quick to apologize when you do, but also be gracious when your partner or your children take out some of the stress on you. It's inevitable. So we need to be gracious and forgiving, and we need to do our best to be kind. And I'm saying that to the people in our lives as well as to ourselves. Be very kind to yourself right now. You are doing the best you can. This is a crazy time. And the individual stories are very, very different, but the collective sense of literally what in the HE double hockey sticks is happening right now is something that we all share. So let's all give each other as much grace and kindness as we can. And also let's try to give that same grace and kindness to ourselves, because you've never done this before and you are 100% going to make mistakes along the way. All right, number 10. Try to maintain perspective and remember that this will not last forever. I used to say all the time during our 5 years of unemployment and underemployment, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I hope to God it's not a train. Because it's such a scary, uncertain time. But you have to remember to look out towards the distance. You know, when you're standing on the beach and you're looking out to the horizon, there is a brighter day coming for you and your family. If you can keep your head when all those around you are losing theirs, you're gonna be okay. You need to stay steady. You need not to panic. Take great care of yourself, and just remember to be kind and forgiving. You are going to get through this. The happy ending to my story is we did get through it, and we not only are now financially okay, we have savings that we will be able to weather whatever the storm is coming, because once this has happened to you once, that's the best part. If you are sitting there right now and you have been let go from your job and you didn't have adequate savings, I can promise you without hesitation, that will never happen to you again, because it only takes once. And you learn and you make it your life goal. It's why you will never buy the big car. You will never buy the best house you can, because you'll always have it in the back of your mind. I need that nest egg because I don't know what's going to happen next. And that is a gift that you can hopefully pass on to your children. And we will all be more mature and better when we're through this. But that doesn't make it any better today. So today, feel what you're feeling. Know that you're not alone. And I'm really glad that you were here. I hope whatever you're doing today, you're finding joy. And I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.